late. There is a reason for this. This happens sometimes. What's up? No audio. Everybody say no audio?
Yeah, everyone. And my dad.
Okay, fade to black. No audio. Kev, we got no audio. Still no audio's coming out?
I can hear you from here. It's screeching, but I can hear you.
Screeching?
But I can. It's not screeching. It was screeching now, but I could hear you.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
It wasn't screeching before you came downstairs, but I could hear you.
Okay.
It wasn't screeching.
Anything.
All right, I'm gonna take it off fade to black then.
Running upstairs in the studio. We seem to be having lots of issues today, but okay, you can come back to the studio now, Ray. So hopefully, are we now live and can people hear me actually talk? I have no idea what's going on today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Are people hearing me?
Yes, I think so. Yes, yeah.
Okay, so my last intro when I actually started was me apologizing for being so late today, and that's because we were having audio problems. I'm going to be honest with you guys, live is really different to just a regular video. The difference is a regular video, you record multiple angles, you get in your feeds and different things, you do it all in post-production. If there's any mistakes, you just go back and do it again. Live, completely different. We have to have everything in sync and working, the right frame rate. We did have that and we had it working. Right before we went live, something happened. We thought we got it working and then obviously we didn't. So are we all set? 100%. Okay, so again, apologies for absolutely everything. So I think let's restart this show again, shall we? What's up guys? This is Ed Gregory from photosincolor.com and welcome to PIC Live, and this week the challenge is action, where I take a look at your photographs. Here we go. Okay, welcome back, and we're actually going to try and make this happen. So this is what happens during a PIC Live show. You guys can send in your photos to me live. The link is in the description below. Send in your action photos and I will look at them right now live and tell you my thoughts, and we can have a real live interaction so you can tell me your thoughts and ask me questions and we can move forward like that. In fact, what I'm going to do, because I chose action this week, and then I went through and looked at all of your photographs, not from this week, but the people that upload, and I'm gonna start looking at you guys and seeing what you actually take photos of and what you would like me to review. So to aid in that, you guys can actually vote on this. Rosie is gonna build this vote right now. Could you add a vote onto that? It's crashed. So on Instagram, if you head over to Instagram right now, you go and look at the Photos in Color story, and there is going to be a vote. Next week, it's either going to be black and white or autumn photos. Just tell me which one you actually want to do. Is it black and white or autumn? So just let me know. Do you know how to do a poll, Rosie? Okay, pass it here. Pass it here.
Okay.
Quickly. Okay. I'm going to actually quickly do this because for some reason we're a little behind today. Autumn. I'm actually doing this autumn. Oh, black and white. And like so. And it's just going to say vote, so go check out the story. And this is not the best live show this week, huh, guys? You've actually got me posting on Instagram that's not very interesting to watch. Yes, okay, guys. Remember, I have this thing called PIC Presets, and that is what is bringing you this video this week. It is a great Lightroom presets that I've built thousands of hours doing it, 200,000 options. Let's roll a little bit of a preview for that. Okay, and I'm posting this to my story right now. Okay, so let's actually jump in and have a look at the photographs that you have sent in, and let's get this rolling. Let's jump to my screen. So this week was live action, and this is our first image. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful photograph. It is a dancer doing a leap at sunset. In terms of action, this is displaying beautiful action. I like the sunset behind. I like it that she's got a beautiful leap. Her back foot is pointed wonderfully. Great shot. What I would probably want to look at in an image like this is lifting up the sun that little bit. So if I lift the exposure, okay, like so, and let me pull down the contrast just a hair. Okay, so what I've done there is just lifted the sun up a little tiny bit. You could actually put a luminance map on this and increase the contrast, well, decrease the contrast of the sky. But actually, I think this is a really great job. One thing that you can do in a situation like this is, if you use a flash, I know that you wanted a silhouette, but if you wanted to use a flash to reflect against the sun, so basically you would expose for the sun, and then you'd have a little bit of a flash in the front and you can actually light the dancer. But I think wonderful job for action. I wouldn't change very much at all. Great job. Oh, and who was that? Because I always want to say who this is. This was from Adi Schiller. So thank you so much. Remember when you upload your photographs to include your Instagram handle so I can follow you and send you some love by putting you in my stories and things like that. Okay, next photo from Taj Fita Kraksanti. Sorry about your names, guys. Action shot. This is a full-on action shot here. I like it. It's gritty. I think you've probably added in some clarity. You've increased the contrast, which works perfectly for this inside a gym. Looks like it's kickboxing or something. I think this is a really great action shot. Now, let's just talk for one moment about this, because what you can see in this photograph is motion blur. Motion blur is basically when the action is faster than the shutter speed. So my guess is this shutter speed is 1/125th of a second. Really, for action, you're going to want to be like 1,000th of a second plus to really freeze the motion. If you want to freeze the motion, we've actually got the motion blur, which actually gives a different feeling. So I think this is a great job, and I just wanted to speak to that briefly. Okay, next photo. Let's see what we've got. From Jarko Howing, and its title is Train. I like it. I think the horizon is a little off. It seems a little wonky to me. You'd want it to be a little bit more like this, I think. Now it feels like the train is in a straight line. I like the steam coming out of it. That's what's giving it this action and this motion. This is a situation where it looks to me, it really is quite sharp. So the train must have been going very slow because it's at 1/80th of a second, so it's a slow shutter speed. So my guess is the train was moving pretty slowly. A good thing with vehicles like cars and trains, if you have that longer shutter speed, you're going to get that nice motion blur. But really great work, and I love the plumes of smoke that are coming out of the top. A little bit grungy on the photo side, but overall, really, really great. Okay, one thing really quickly. If you want to ask me any questions during this live show, just pop it in the comments on the side here and I will answer them right away. This live stream is not going to stay on the YouTube channel because we had so many mistakes at the beginning. So this is basically the only time where you're going to be able to connect with me about this topic. Let me know if we've got any questions. We do? Okay, let me review this here. We've got more photos coming in, which is great. Some wonderful photos coming in. I'm going to do one more over here, and then we're going to go to questions. So let's have a look here. This is a bird from Warwick Low. This is a cormorant bird, I guess is the name, Splashdown. Okay, so beautiful photograph. I love that it got the moment of the bird actually coming in and landing. I think the focus is a little in front of the bird though, so that's why we've got this, or it's a little bit of motion blur because it's coming in so fast. With a photo like this, you may have been stationary taking the image, but what you can actually do is actually follow the bird with your camera, so the bird will stay in focus and then the lake itself will blur out. Now that's a very difficult technique to do, but overall the composition of this, I like it. I spoke last week a little bit about the birds landing. Well, if there's motion, that they should be going into the image as opposed to out of the image. And this is a perfect example of that. So really nice work, Warwick. Let's go into a question.
Okay, from Space Dolphin. When you follow your moving subject in action, how do you keep the focus on it?
Okay, well, I kind of spoke a little bit about this. So when doing action photography, you've got a few different things. If we're talking about focus, what I would recommend doing is deciding where the action is going to take place. So you can actually manually focus beforehand, and that depends on which camera you're using and what focusing system. But if I know, for example, that I don't know, I'm at the races and I'm photographing horses and they're all going to jump over a jump, well, I can focus on that jump and I'm looking down the track, and as the horses come, if I then fire lots of shots in that moment, what I'm going to get is one of those photographs is going to be in focus as they go over. So that's a great way. The other one is you can use something called 3D tracking, which is inside lots of cameras where it will track it, but it all depends on how fast the subject is moving. To get sharp photographs in action photography, basically one way of doing it is you want to set yourself in a way so that the action isn't moving away and towards, but instead the action is moving left to right, because this is always in focus, whereas forwards and backwards isn't always in focus. So if you're sideways on, more things are going to be in focus more often. And in action photography, you want to have it on a high shutter speed. Well, a high shutter speed, but also a shutter rate, so you're taking lots of photographs. Just because you're going to end up missing photos, so the more photos you take, the more chances you get of actually getting a sharp image. Okay, one more question.
What kind of lens do we need to take an action photo? I only have an 18 to 200 Tamron. Can I shoot anyway? And cool intro, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you so much for the intro. Today was about 5 minutes long because we had such a huge mistake. But my actual little theme tune, thank you so much for that. So what lens do you need for action photography? Any photo lens whatsoever, because it all depends on what type of action shot you're going to take. For example, if you want to take sports photography, you're going to want a nice big zoom so you can get all the way in. And if you want to for example, take a picture of a water droplet exploding, then you might want to have a macro lens. But there's specifics, but you can actually shoot action with any lens at all. It's more to do with your settings. Action photography is technique and settings. So for example, if you wanted to have something moving, and then you're tracking it as it's moving so that you get the background blurry and then the subject in focus, that is a great way to capture motion. You just got a slower shutter speed with lots of motion, which is really exciting, but takes a lot of technique and some practice. The other option is to have a very high shutter speed so that you're freezing it in time. And that you can do that's the limitations of your camera, not your lens, but if you're at 1,000, 2,000ths of a second, you're going to be absolutely fine with that. Okay, let's move on and look at some more photographs. This next one is from Mahai Matic, and it's a raleigh in autumn. Now, I think this is a great example of this image, actually. It's a 70 to 300. It's taken nearly at full zoomed in, which is how we've got this nice bokeh in the background. It's nice and sharp. I think the focus is a little bit here as opposed to on the guy's face. But again, these cars go extremely fast, so getting focus is going to be very difficult. This is a good example for what I would be doing is I'd sit in a position and I would actually put my focus on the road. And as the car drove through that focus point, then I would take the photograph shooting manually. Composition-wise, it's powerful, it's straight down the middle. I really, really like it. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of want to see what that GoPro is taking pictures of at the top of the car there. But I think this is a great photograph. What I really like about this is very low to the ground, so you're getting more of the perspective of the driver as opposed to above. So that's really, really nice work. Let's keep going and have a look at another image. Okay, wow. So this here from Anja or Anja Haberkorn, this is a perfect example of how to capture action, and she's frozen it like perfectly. So let's say I actually want to go in and look at these settings for this one because I want to see, I'm going to come into library, We're into, okay, so we have no metadata on this image. Please leave your metadata in the images so I can review them and see how it was taken. This was taken with a very fast shutter speed. There's very little blur to any of the droplets of water. I'm going to guess that this was a balloon filled with water that was then burst with maybe a pin or something. That's what I'm going to go for, because you can see the ball in the middle. There's a ball of water that's basically exploded. It's like a water bomb, essentially. Very shallow depth of field. I think this is a great, great photo. It looks like it was probably just taken outside at sunset, which is how we've got the beautiful contrast in all of the water and also the tones of orange. I think this is a great photo, actually. I really like it. I wonder what would happen if you were to rotate this image and do something different with it. So it looks like that. It looks like it's firing upwards at that point, like it's falling downwards. So there's different things that you can do with this type of image. Either way, wonderful work. Anha, I think is your name. Okay, next image. Wow. Okay, so this to me is a perfect example of composition. We have a lot of action going on. There's a man pulling this camel. The camel's pulling in the opposite direction. There's a lot of feeling which is in this image. We've got sunset. We've obviously got some other, another character down here who's, it looks like a lady who's got a head and she's perfectly lit by the sun behind her, which composition-wise, it's like a perfect storm. I don't know if this was planned or if it was, I don't know how you've managed to get it so perfect, but either way, I think you've done an amazing job of that. Rosie, do we have any more questions? Let me just come back here. My computer doesn't seem to want to do anything here. So just come back to my camera a second, Ray.
Ready?
Thank you. Yeah, go for a question.
Tips to capture the sun rays coming within the canopy.
Ah, okay, so you talk about rainforest photography here. Not quite sure what's going on with my computer. 1 second. Let's do this. Okay, so let's talk about if you want to capture rays of light that come through the canopy. So that's a rainforest, and you have beams of light that is coming down into the dark woodland below. There's some nice techniques for this. If you shoot later on in the day and let the sun drop down a little bit, the beams are a lot stronger as they come through. Another thought for that is if you shoot towards the sun itself, what you're going to get is the beams of light. So you're actually going to get those rays of light coming towards the camera. So that's a great way of doing it. And in that situation, you'd want to expose more for the highlights, and then you can bring the shadows out afterwards. I actually have a tutorial on YouTube about how to do this in Photoshop. It's a cool video where there's a forest, and I show you how to create these beams of light in Photoshop. A lot of people want to capture it for real, but you can actually do it in Photoshop. So you can go on my YouTube channel. I think we're going to bring up a version of that in a moment. We're going to show you what that looks like. So yeah, that's what I would do. And then also a great time to do it is if there's mist, or if it's just been raining, if you're in the rainforest, then that's going to capture all of those beams of light for sure. Okay, so my computer's back to life, and let's keep going through here and let's continue reviewing these photographs. I just want to stick with this one for a moment because I think it really, what's going on here? Nope, we are back. So this photograph, composition-wise, wonderful. A little dark in the shadows. I think maybe I would try lifting these up just a hair, just to see what we got. Yeah, so quite a lot of clarity used over here in the main feature. But either way, I think you've done a stunning job of capturing this as a story. Let's keep going, some action. This is a bird shot from Nitin Jain. I don't know what type of bird. Is it a stork? Something like that? I would say it is. Either way, it's 300 mils, so you zoomed all the way in. You've got a f-stop at f6, so that means that you're going to get it nice and sharp. This is an example, for example, I said before, if you're over, 1 or 2 thousandths of a second, you're going to be able to freeze motion. And this bird is nice and sharp. Now, I'm not sure if you've over sharpened the image, which is what we've got here, or if you've just got some noise. I would look at reducing the noise a little bit in that. But either way, I think this is a really wonderful example of how to capture a bird. Obviously, we've cut the feet off, but look, with bird photography, it's so hard to do that sometimes you just have to own that and be like, we missed the feet, but a great photograph, so nice work. Let's keep going. Oh, what a fun photo, David. So this is obviously a young boy playing in a lake. They're splashing the water, and this is an example of the opposite to what we just saw. So if we bring up the information here, okay, David hasn't given us any information on this, but I can tell you that this is a slow shutter speed. You can see the water is splashing, but timing-wise, they've got the child as they've gone up and they've kind of frozen, which means that the person in this, that the boy is actually frozen in time really well, whereas the water, because it's moving fast, is really blurry. So I think you've captured a really nice image. In terms of cropping, I think that they're a little high. I would want to crop it in and bring them into the frame that little bit more. But action photography, great fun, really exciting. I would maybe want to warm it up just a little bit though. So I'm actually going to come into PIC presets, which is what I spoke about earlier. This is something that I sell on photos in color. I'm not just doing this to advertise. I want to show you actually how I would use this. So if you go to nature film, you can see all of these different options, and I can click on a preset, and that's just brought this image to light with just one click. It's edited everything down the side. And then we'll go for something different. I'm going to go into black and white because I think this image is going to look wonderful in black and white. Look at that. It's really brought this image to life. Okay, let's keep on going. Fantastic work, David. And let me, Kevin Friel. This is action, it's exciting, it tells a story, it gives us emotion. This is exactly the type of photography that I'm talking about and that just tells a story. Okay, so we're playing, it looks like American football. There are obviously 2 children doing this. The energy in this image, the storytelling is fantastic. One kid's got the ball, the other one's trying to get it, and it's just, no, don't do it. And the moment in time here is perfect. Now, either Kevin was shooting many frames per second, clicking it and allowing this to happen, which is wonderful, or they just captured it in one take. Either way, if you just did this and this was the one frame that you got, you captured this perfectly. But look at the grass. So the grass underneath the feet, this is how you can always check focus. Look at the subject, see what they're standing above, and is that in focus? And it is, and it's just perfect. Like, Kevin, amazing job here. Wonderful, wonderful job. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, actually, I
think it's tag rugby, or what did you say?
Flag football.
It's flag.
American football?
It's flag football. Oh, because for children, so it's tag rugby. It's safer. So here we go. Difference between the US and the UK. In the UK, we play tag rugby. In the US, you play flag football. It looks to me like it's kind of the same thing. Either way, you've captured this perfectly. Love it. I love it. Is this against the rules? Does anybody know? Would this be a foul? Let's see if anybody has an opinion on that. Personally, I don't care if it's a foul or not because you got an amazing photograph. Print that and give it to both of those children.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. Let's go through to another photograph. Oh, Sebastian Lubinski. You are in every single one of my live shows and I appreciate you so much. So thank you so much for joining in. We good? Yeah. So this is a great photograph. I think she's probably holding like colored flour or one of those smoke bombs that you can buy. It's great. It's got story, it's got emotion. She looks so happy. She's jumping in the air. We've caught her at the very top of the jump. The background's nice and blurred out because she's in front of a lake. This is a wonderful example of action photography. If I was to change one thing about this, I would have got down lower to the ground, and that would have made her look higher in the air. That's basically how, you know, when you see photographs of dancers and you see photographs of different athletes and they look so high. Yes, it may have been photoshopped or comped together, but often what happens is the photographer is just lower than the subject, and that gives the illusion of them being even higher. So that's great. Oh, so let me just say this for just one moment. I sit here and go through all of your photographs, and last week I started posting on Instagram saying, hey guys, go to my Instagram. I've posted one of my favorite action photographs, and that's a chance for you to go and give me your thoughts. And honestly, I read them all, and I'm taking them all on board because as a photographer, we're all learning all the time. So head over to Photos in Color on Instagram, and on there, the very last photograph that's posted will be one of my action photographs. Yep.
We are currently 50-50.
Ooh!
Challenge.
Oh, and so currently, if you go onto Photos in Color and go on my story on Instagram, and we're voting for what should the theme be next week, should it be black or white or autumn? The end of this live show, we are going to choose which one it's going to be for next week. And Rosie's just informed me it's 50-50. That is very exciting. Okay, so let me just come back to the computer and let's keep on going through here. Let's look at this. Okay, so this is a very different example of action, but I would say it is still an action shot. Why is it action? Because it contains motion, lots of motion. If you look down each side, you've got where the cars are driving and where the cars are moving through the frame, and that is the action. And it's great. The trains are stationary, the cars are action, lots of motion. Really, really like the shot. Now let me do a couple of things with this image for some thoughts that I have. We're not quite on center, which means that our lines aren't quite straight. But the problem with perspective is if I try and line up these poles here, although we've made the ones at the top straight, the ones down here still aren't. So for that, what we can do is we can use something which in Lightroom is amazing, and that is transforms, and you have this upright tool, and you can actually draw onto the image. So I can draw one here on that line, and I can draw another one on this line. And what it will do is it will actually squeeze that image and will make it kind of square. Now, if you go too far, you can always adjust one of these lines, because that was a little bit too extreme for me, because you actually made the train go a little bent and wonky there. So we'll bring it back a little bit, but that has just straightened it up a little bit, which is really great. The other thing that I want to do here is I want to show you, this is a style which a lot of people are doing, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to come under Urban Film, and I'm going to go to Urban Lights, and I'm going to click on this, and that is what we get. Now, this is basically using, it's highlighting the oranges, it's bringing back a lot of things into the image. I'm going to bring down the exposure just a little bit, and it kind of gives that very city feel. I also have another version which is with Crush, which really crushes those blacks, but it gives a completely and utterly different feeling to this kind of a photograph. But Swapnil Tiwari, great work. I really like this photograph. Okay, let's keep going. Another great action photo. This is, I'm guessing they're on a trampoline, or they can just jump very high, or they're a gymnast. Tero Marin, I love the photograph. I actually like it that it's straight on and it's just her back. It's kind of amusing. The background, usually I'd say like, oh, go put, turn around and try and get the trees in the garden or something like that to add something. But for this, I kind of like the block yellow feeling that you've got. In fact, let's rotate this and see what would happen if you had the opposite way around, and see if you get a different perspective and make things slightly, you know, different and interesting. So let me come around again. And for this one, just because it's kind of got that cool kind of a feeling to it, where it's the block yellow, it's kind of muted colors, what I would want to do here is go for a vintage film feeling on this and kind of wash it out a little bit. I'll come down here and kind of give it a real film grain feeling to this. So great, really, really great work. Do we have more questions?
We've got a couple.
Couple more questions. Okay, let's go to this. Also, let me know, can you hear Rosie better this week? Because we have her on a microphone. Or do you need to mute me when you go to Rosie? Okay, let's try going to Rosie and see what happens.
Hello.
Okay, let's see. Let me know how Rosie sounds.
Okay, let me ask you this question. The best way to capture moving fog?
Okay, that's cool. Best way to capture moving fog. Now, my guess is fog is coming over the top of a mountain, something like that. If you want to get fog and you want to show the motion, the challenge with that is fog is see-through. So as you give it motion, it's just going to kind of blur it, and it's going to make the background, like what you're seeing through it, just look washed out. What I would do is use a faster shutter speed and try and hold it in time. Or the other option is do something like a time lapse and then actually play it back as a video and allow yourself to see the fog moving through. But I would probably with that go for a faster shutter speed and try and freeze it as opposed to get it as a blur.
Someone is asking if in 2 weeks if the subject could be interior.
Ooh, interior. That is a great one. I actually have a list of all the different themes that I want to do. Interior is on there. So next week we will do a vote. Let's make a note of this. Interior versus something else. And we'll see what people think about that. But I would love to do interior or internal shots for sure. Great question. And a great idea as well. So let's come back to my screen and let's see where else we are here. Another image. Okay, a nice action shot here. Let me just hide all that away. To hide the sides, by the way, in Lightroom, you can hit Tab, which is what's going to bring those on and off, and Shift Tab is what brings in the bottom one or hides them all. Okay, just so that you can start learning some shortcuts. This is a nice action shot, nice and sharp, a mountain bike rider coming through. Personally, I think that the vignette is a little heavy. Spoke about this last week a little bit, that if you have something like a tree, like this, which is lit, and then the same object keeps going into a vignette, what happens is the tree starts looking a little bit weird. So instead, what I would have done would be take the brush tool, and I'll kind of show you with this, but I can't because there's already a vignette, but I'll do a reverse vignette, I guess. And what I'll do is I'll increase the exposure, and what I would have done would be to just paint like so, and then maybe down here I would have painted in the vignette. I've done it in reverse there to bring it back, but it gives you a little bit more leeway than just a straight vignette, which kind of can spoil a tree. But as an action shot, I like it that we have something in the foreground and something way back in the background. It gets focused to the subject there. So nice work, Vando Neto. Here we go from Bob Bruce. Now, Bob actually uploaded this to Facebook earlier today, so I thought I'd put this on here and put it in the comments. Great action shot of a cyclist. My guess is they're in a velodrome, an interior cycling track. It looks like it's a professional for sure because they've got a helmet, they've got sponsors, they're on a pretty pro-looking bike. It's a great shot. Not loving what's happening to the mouth, but I kind of like the struggle and the tension in there. In fact, I can see from the head, they're actually outdoors, maybe an outdoor velodrome. Because you can see up here, you can see the clouds in the sky and a cityscape. Either way, a really great photograph, well captured, super shallow depth of field, managed to capture it great. So nice work, Bob. Let's zoom out here, let's see what we've got. Okay, so definitely landing on the action side of things, Cyril. Shot in Copenhagen. Now the image for me is a little dark and a little cold or contrasty maybe. I'm working with a JPEG, so I don't have much to play with here. And I think what I would probably want to do is bring a little bit more focus, like so, to the actual action. Before, what we had was a little bit too much of the foreground. Now, I am a fan of having something in the foreground because it gives depth to an image, but for this one, I think we just want to be tighter. So you're at 200 mils, so you're at the full extension of your lens there on a 70 to 200, but maybe stood closer or something just to get in tighter. But as an action shot, really, really great work. Okay, this looks like somebody about to do a front flip or partway through a front flip. Really great way to capture the motion. This is Ivan Matthew in Paris, maybe. I really like the photograph. I really like the composition. I like the motion. I like the action. I think that my guess is you've used clarity. So if I push it up even further, you can see the effect that that's happened. I think you've gone too far with the clarity and you've brought out all of this back here, and it's a little bit too much. I would want to see that. I'd have just added clarity using the brush tool and only used it on the subject. But, you know, great work on the composition. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this one. Oh, what a fun shot. Now, I did see this one before. We do check all of the images before we put them on live on YouTube, and she's wearing pasties so that she is covered, so this is safe. I think this is a great photograph. I don't know if she's a dancer or performer in some kind of a club or small venue. I like the motion of the hair at the top. Oh, can we get in? Oh, it's not a very high resolution image. Sorry, wrong direction. Let's come in here. But I like the motion of the hair up here. I like that she's body painted and everything. It's a great, fun shot. A little flat against the background, but either way, we've caught some action and it tells a bit of a story from a performance point of view. So nice work, Chris. Let's keep going. Okay, so this one here is Tadej Verdev. Of a race car in motion. And this here, okay, so I want to point out two things with this. Look at the sharpness here. Let me come out just a little bit. So look at the sharpness here. It's nice and sharp on these logos. And then let's look at the flag in the background. Okay, so you can see here that this has blur. Okay, let's come to my camera a second so I can explain this. With those two things that I showed you there, this isn't just bokeh, so this isn't a shallow depth of field because the blur would be even throughout. If we go back to the image, you can see that on the sign in the background here, what we have is motion blur. The blur is going from left to right. Now what that means is they are actually tracking the car like so. And they're tracking at the same speed that the car is moving, meaning the car stays in focus, but as the camera's moving, anything in the background is having that blur. This is a great example of how to take an action photograph and create a really dynamic feeling with it. So great work and a great example of how to take action photography. Nice. Wow, look at this for a photo. How interesting. Looks like... I don't know what's going on here. Is this when they put on a little truck behind the horse? You know, like in that movie Troy? Troy, was that the movie? Is it like a rodeo? Is it a rodeo? Well, there's nothing attached to the horses behind. Maybe they're trying to attach it. I'm not sure. Something went wrong. It looks like something went wrong. Either way, there is a massive amount of action going on here. I really like it. The horses are in motion. You can see the muscles of the horses like absolutely going for it down here. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen differently would be lower. But in this scenario, my guess is you wouldn't have been able to get to a lower situation. And maybe, I don't know if you've cropped it in, but everything's touching the edge of the frame. I'd want to see a little bit more, especially where they're going to. So they're going out of the frame. So that's what I would change there, but a great action shot. Oh, this is fun from Nitin. This is an action shot of, looks like a group of, maybe a school or a team. They're in a race. It looks like two different boats, the reds and the blues. I like it. Again, I think that you've used quite a lot of clarity on this image. I would recommend really being careful on the clarity. I have a video on YouTube all about clarity. Let's see if we can bring that up actually. It's all about clarity, and I speak very specifically about how clarity works, when to use it and when not to use it, and what it does to your image. Go and watch that video. It's really important to actually understand what that is. Rosie, do we have more questions?
Yeah.
Let's go for another question.
Okay. I use a Canon 60.
And it's really hard to get a perfect focus. How do you learn manual focus?
So if you have a camera that has manual and autofocus, that pretty much every camera. The sound is gone?
Yeah.
No, it's on.
Sound is gone, Ed's mic's off, no sound, audio, no sound, like a million questions all coming in now.
Yeah, it's on now.
Oh, is it on now? Was it muted?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we back now, Rosie?
Now it's back, yeah.
Okay, sorry, that was just a purely technical issue. We had me muted. So let me go into that one more time and talk about how this works in terms of focusing. If you want to manually focus, you take an object, you focus past it so that it's blurry and this is in focus, and then you pull your focus back this way so that this is blurry and this is in focus, and then you'll be able to settle somewhere in the middle right where the focus point is. That's how you'll learn how to focus, and that's also how a camera focuses. The camera won't just go focus, it'll go boom, boom, boom. So it goes too far, then it sits in the middle. That's the best way to learn how to focus. If you're having problems autofocusing on your camera, think about this. Focusing needs contrast. So if I was trying to focus on my hand, if I was to aim right here, it wouldn't really be able to focus because there's not very much contrast. However, if I was to focus here where my fingers are, where there's light and dark sections, it would focus perfectly. So that's what I would recommend doing. Okay, let's jump in and just do a few more reviews before we call it quits today. I'm gonna get through a lot right now. So let's jump in here. We have this great photograph from Stefan Koch, who has taken a photograph of a snowboarder coming down a mountain. Again, I think that they've overused clarity. Do we have the clarity video?
Yes.
Did we find a version of it? Let's see if we can play a little bit of this clarity video live. Let's see if we can actually do this, because I think it's important that you see it. So this is what it looks like.
We're Red Link. We wanted to show you how we created our amazing new website.
We play an ad.
Now we know that having a...
Hi, this is Ed Gregory for
so this is what it looks like here.
And today I'm going to show you how to use the clarity tool in Lightroom. So the clarity tool in Lightroom can be extremely powerful, but it's often overused or overlooked.
Okay, so that is the video, and I go through and I really talk about a load of things there. So I would strongly recommend everybody watch that video, just because it's really gonna help you out there. But in terms of an action photograph, you've caught the guy carving into the mountain. It's a great, great photo. Really, really nicely done. Let's keep going here. Wow, look at that. You have got that, to the looks of me, pretty much pin sharp. So this is a gymnast. I don't know what she's jumping off or on or what she's doing, but she is in mid-air and she looks fantastic. Her form, look at those pointed toes, her arms are out. Like really fantastic work. for the girl in the shot, but also Brian Spur. Congratulations capturing it. Unfortunate about the background, but you can't always, choose your background. So in terms of image and capture, like, well done on the camera settings. So is this a race? I'm guessing it's a jet ski race from Daniel Sandberg. I like it. I think that you've done the motion again, so you're following the racers, which is going a little too contrasty for me. And again, I'm going to say that you've used a lot of clarity on this, and I think that it just pushes the photograph too far in Lightroom. Like, pull it back on the clarity, in my opinion. But as an action shot, I think it looks really, really great. I would want to zoom out a little bit and get some more, where are they going to, or get in even tighter and try and get like this guy with a red hat on. Like, look at that. The sharpness is really great in that image though. Okay, action shot. We've got a dog jumping and looks like he's completely missing it. Maybe it's the owner is moving it out of the shot. It's a fun photograph of a dog, in motion. I would say though, it's pretty blurry as an image overall. So you need a faster shutter speed, or whoever's holding the camera, maybe drop it on a tripod. Because 1/500th of a second should have been fine, but we're a little out of focus there. So I would work on that. Okay, wow. Look at that helicopter. Jason Lee, I hope that this was a helicopter that was about to land, or it's doing some stunts or something. 1/100th of a second you managed to shoot this at, which is amazing. That's why we've got the beautiful motion blur up here of the propellers. You've got the fuel coming out the back. You can see the exhaust, which is what makes it so blurry because of the heat. I think this is a great photograph, like really, really great photo. F10, I would potentially have gone down to, say, F6 and then increase your shutter speed or your ISO, to figure some things out there, just to get those trees out of focus behind. But I understand, you wanted to get some motion blur at the top. But great photograph, nice composition as well. This is some dancers dancing, they're in motion. A little off on the focus, and I would say they're in between moves here. So I'd brighten it for starters. They're definitely in between moves. I would try and select something where there's motion, but it's a little bit more dynamic. But Stefan Granath, welcome to PIC Live, and thank you for your submission, and I think it's really great. How are we doing on Instagram? Wow, look at this. Chris Adams. This is an action photograph of a guy jumping over some wood with a sunset behind. We've got the sun setting behind the mountains. We've got a lens flare. We've got this very nice teal, orange feeling to all the colors. It's very autumnal. I think this is a beautiful photograph, and I think you've done a vignette just at the bottom, and I think that was a great choice because it's just giving this extra reflection down at the front. Chris, this is a great photo, composition-wise, wonderful. Like really, really great work. One more photograph, then we're going to do the results. Look at this from Thomas Edderby. It's awesome. I guess, is it a bike rider, motorcyclist, something like this? Maybe they've just finished a race and they're squirting the water in their face. High shutter speed, so that we've got a little bit of motion blur here. My guess is there is a flash coming from the camera. I like it as a photograph. It's interesting. I would say that it's cropped in. His face is a little too low in this image. So what I would want to see, and I don't have any more, but I would want to have a lot lower down on the chest, so his head's a little higher in the frame. It's composition-wise, he's sitting a little bit low. But as an action photograph, I think it's really great. So yeah, what are we looking at for next week's PIC Live?
It's very, very close.
It is very, very close.
But it's going to be black and white.
Next week, and what was the percent?
It was autumn 47%, and black and white was 53%.
Wow. Okay, so next week it is a black and white challenge. So upload your black and white photos. This week I got the link up only yesterday. I might even put the link up today so that you can go and upload your black and white photographs today. Remember to hit that bell on the PIC Live, and next week we're gonna retest all of the equipment and we are gonna go live at 11 o'clock on the dot. I promise. If I don't, then
you have to do your dance.
if I don't, then I have to do a silly dance. How about that? Okay, well, thanks so much for watching. Apologies again for the beginning of today's show. This will not end up on YouTube. I will be deleting it just because I don't think people are going to want to sit through the beginning.
People actually did ask for you to keep it up.
People did ask?
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it up for a week, and then I'm going to delete it. Because I just don't really like it, and I apologize for that. So we're going to try and do better next week. We are trying our very best. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This is the end of the PIC Live show. Tune in next week where it's going to be black and white photography. Thank you so much for watching. This is Ed Gregory, photosincolor.com. Oh, one more thing before I go. If all of these comments get deleted, I don't get to read any one of these. So if you want to write a comment, the video is going to be posted for a week in a moment, and there will be a comment section below. Comment there, and then I can actually see it. If you've got questions, I will respond to them if I can. Okay, that was all. Thanks so much for watching. This is Ed Gregory for photosincolor.com, and we are out.